Good evening, and thank you for attending. My name is Natalie Sayre, and I'll be the moderator for this evening's candidate debate. Before we begin, please silence all phones and electronic devices. Additionally, please refrain from any interruptions to the debate, as it is being recorded for on-demand viewing and post-captioning services. The Citizens Clean Election Commission is the sponsor for this evening's debate. The Clean Elections Act is a campaign finance reform and public education measure, initiated by Arizona citizens and passed by voters in 1998. The Clean Elections Act was created to allow campaigns to be more issue-oriented and less negative. The system provides full funding for qualified candidates who participate voluntarily. The candidates agreed to abide by the Clean Elections Act and rules, which include contribution and spending limits, foregoing special interest money, as well as participating in commission debates. The candidates invited to participate tonight are in contested primaries. Candidates in uncontested primaries are not included in the debate process. For tonight's debate, questions have been prepared by Clean Elections based on a voter survey, as well as questions that have been submitted by voters through the Clean Elections smartphone app. However, we encourage live audience questions first. If you have a question, please print it clearly on the note card given to you when you entered and hold it up. Our volunteers will pick up the cards and deliver them to me. If you need additional cards, just raise your hand. We screen questions for clarity, to eliminate duplications, speeches, or personal attacks on candidates. The debate is scheduled for 1.5 hours, so we may not get to all audience questions, but we will do our best. There's an independent timer who will ensure that all candidates have their allotted time to answer questions and will tell them when their time is up. Tonight's debate includes 1-minute opening statements, a lightning round. The first half of the debate begins with 2 minutes to answer audience questions. Each candidate will answer the same audience question, and we will rotate which candidate responds first. After all the candidates have responded to the question, the first responding candidate will also be given an additional 30 seconds. The second half will allow for a different question per candidate with 1 minute to answer. And finally, 1 minute closing statements. If you have a specific question for a specific candidate, please include the candidate's name on the note card. It will be considered in the second half of the debate. We ask that you remain polite for all of the candidates and give them a fair and uninterrupted hearing, no matter how much you may strongly agree or disagree with what's being said. Tonight's participants are Mr. Dennis Barger, Republican, candidate for State Representative, District Number 14. Mr. Drew John, Republican, candidate for State Representative, District 14. Ms. Becky Nutt, Republican, a Clean Elections participant, candidate for State Representative of District 14. And finally, Mr. Anthony Sizer, also a Republican, for a Clean Elections participant and a candidate for State Representative, District 14. The order in which the candidates will speak has been determined by alphabetical order according to last name for opening comments and will progress from that starting point. The closing order will be determined by reverse alphabetical order by last name. Mr. Barger, will you start opening remarks, please?
Thank you, Natalie. I appreciate the opportunity to speak tonight. My name is Dennis Barger. I have lived in what is now Legislative District 14 for the last 19 years as I've worked in the Vail School District. I'm a former high school history and government teacher. I have been serving my community in the Vail School District the last 10 years as the principal of Vail Academy and High School. I'm currently the Arizona Secondary Principal of the Year for the state of Arizona. And I'm running because I believe education matters and it affects all things throughout the state, including things like health care, folks who end up in prison, the amount of taxes we pay to support those who are not educated. So I think we need to invest in our education system. I'm here to serve my community, and I kind of view tonight as a job interview, and I'm hoping that you'll hire me to represent you. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. John, yours.
Yes, thanks for the opportunity to be here this evening with everybody. Thank you all for being here. My name is Drew John. I'm running for the LD14. Rural Arizona needs a powerful voice in the State House of Representatives. Maricopa County and big cities like Phoenix tend to dominate the legislative process. I was born, raised, and have worked my entire life in this rural legislative district. Over my lifetime, I've come to know all well the critical issues we face. We need more and better jobs, excellent education, opportunities, safe communities, and affordable health care that is accessible to our rural areas. Unfortunately, we are often overlooked over these issues that with the bigger cities in charge. I've worked as a meat cutter, small business owner, school board member, and county supervisor, to name a few. I'm fully committed to representing you, and I appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight and look forward to working with you and serving all of you. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Nutt, your opening.
Good evening. My formal education is in public administration, business, and economic development. I served as county chair for Republican Party. I'm a graduate of Doty London, a training for Republican women. I'm also a Project Central graduate, training for rural leadership. I incorporated a Chamber of Commerce, initiated a tourism council. I served on several community boards and councils, including being appointed by Governor Brewer to the advisory council to the Arizona Commerce Authority. I've initiated several service programs, including Toastmasters International, Christian Women's Club, and American Business Women's Association. And I've been extensively involved in the 4-H youth program. I spent many years living off the grid on one of the original homesteads of my late husband's family's ranch, established over 100 years ago. Our two youngest daughters are the 5th generation to have lived on the homestead. My focus is on stabilizing the economies in our rural communities, providing our youth with the tools they need to live productive and prosperous lives, and protecting future generations from overloaded debt and encumbrances.
Thank you. Mr. Sizer, your opening comments.
Good evening. My name is Anthony Sizer. I'm a traditional conservative Republican. I'm an Eagle Scout. I'm a member of the NRA and AZCDL. I am a Christian, Bible-based faith. I am an engineer. I'm also been a precinct committeeman in Precinct 229 for the past 3 years. I'm also a member of the Board of Directors of Arizona Children's Association, as well as being a merit badge counselor and a leader on Scout Day at my workplace. I work for a DoD contractor on missile defense related. One of the things that I wanted to hit on is Christian values. I believe that it's very important that our representatives have such values, because you have no idea where the moral boundaries are if you don't know where their faith is. Thank you.
Thank you. To break the ice, we will start with a quick lightning round. Please answer with one word. Mr. John, Pandora or Spotify?
Pandora.
Ms. Nutt, CNN, Fox News, or MSNBC?
Fox News.
Mr. Sizer, Netflix or Hulu?
Netflix.
And Mr. Barger, Lumberjack, Sun Devil, or Wildcat?
Lumberjack.
At this time, we will begin the portion of the debate where each candidate will answer the same question. The first question is for Ms. Nutt, and it is this. If you were to be elected, what would be the first bill you would submit, and what would you consider your most important issue to address?
Well, I think we need to be careful when we initiate bills, because they do become law or can become law. So I don't have any specific bill that I would initiate immediately. But I do anything that would have to do with, I would certainly support anything having to do with getting money into the classroom for our teachers and the economy, growing the economy in our rural districts.
Thank you. Mr. Sizer, same question.
Okay, my experience from running as a candidate for Vail Governing School Board in 2014, as well as my experience in my current role as a candidate for House of Representatives. I've gone door to door to various residents, basically getting input. It's not just my personal input, but I also have views as a parent, dropping off my child and seeing the activities going on, speaking to teachers. So I believe school funding is a significant concern. However, I also believe that there needs to be accountability to make sure the classroom is funded properly and not neglected. And I believe that is one of our biggest obstacles, and it does impact our state budget. As you can see, our state budget's biggest chunk that's used out of that is the K-12 education. And I believe that in order for us to retain quality teachers and have classrooms be successful and address the teacher-student ratio, we need to basically review how these fundings are done, whether the governing board members are actually doing their job, what is going on, how the funds are not making it to the classroom. Really, schools are the purpose of classroom, not everything else. Of course, I do not necessarily disagree with sports and other alternative activities. I participated in sports myself, not only in high school but also in college. But education is very important because that will take our children the farthest. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Barger, the same question.
Thank you. I think the first thing that I would do if I were elected to the legislature is I would look to increase the authority of the people and the court system within our state. Recently, we were all asked as citizens of the state of Arizona to decide a critical educational funding issue with Proposition 123 that never should have been brought back to the people. We've already voted on this issue. And the legislature refused to act on what the citizens of the state of Arizona passed, also refused to comply with the court order. That case went to court. Courts ruled on the side of the schools. They sued, took it back to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court of our state ruled 5-0 in favor of schools, and still nothing happened. Finally, a deal was brokered with our legislature that, quite honestly, never should have been brought to the voters. We shouldn't be taking money from the state land trust for the next 9 years and holding future generations hostage to fund what should have been funded all along. The willpower of our legislature to do what the citizens have required of them has been missing from our legislature, and if it's not going to be there because they lack the integrity to do what's right, then we have to strengthen the court system in Arizona and give the courts the authority to impose fees on our legislature for failing to do what they've been elected to do. What we are now facing is an opportunity for citizens across the state to get rid of some of the people that have been up in our legislature and bring in some new people. And so I'm hoping to be one of those new people, to be the voice of common sense and say, hey, the voters have spoken on this. The courts have said we need to do this. Why are we not doing this? Why are we forcing this backdoor deal to defund education further so that our governor can say he didn't raise taxes and refund money that's in the surplus of the state when we could have actually used that money to do what voters have asked to be done in years past? Thank you.
Thank you. And Mr. John, your response.
Well, as a new legislator, you're not going to have much of a chance to pass a bill on your own. But what I will tell you is one of the first things that I want to do when I get in there is to get the procedures remedied to where the budget is handled from the bottom up and not from the top down. We've had the last couple of years where our budget has been put together by the top down, and that's not the way it's set up. That's not the way it should be. It should be from the people up. The people that have been elected should be the ones that work their way up, listening to their citizens, what the needs are. And, you know, I work for the people here in this district. Priorities are going to change. So whatever the priorities might be at the time that of the people of the communities, that's who I work for. That's what I'm going to do, and that's going to be my priorities. I'm not going to sit here and try to give you an idea of a bill that I'm going to pass, knowing that it's going to be very difficult to do it. Even though I have some great relationships with some of the legislators and the incumbents that are in there, I'll be able to kind of hit the ground running a little bit better because of the 16 years as a county supervisor and working with the legislature. And I look forward to that. But I'm a big believer in local control, and that means clear down to the citizens. The citizens, their leaders that they've elected, those are the people that I want to work with to set up the priorities and make sure that the bills that are passed more so don't harm us. Those are the ones I want to watch for, but also ones that can help us. But the ones that harm rural Arizona are the ones that I want to keep an eye on. Yeah.
Thank you. And Ms. Nutt, your 30-second response.
I guess I'm not really aware of what this 30-second is.
So this 30-second is in case something else has occurred to you as you've listened to your peers speak. So you have 30 seconds to add any additional thoughts on this question.
Well, Drew did make a valid point, is that we have to be careful of the bills of what's coming down the pike, of what's being out there. So as far as introducing bills, again, just what I said, that we have to be careful what's coming down, who's introducing what, and look out for the people so that we're not just introducing bills just to be introducing a bill. We have to be paying attention to what's going on. But again, I would promote money into the classroom to get our teachers paid and economic development in our communities. Those are key to our economy.
Thank you. Next question. Mr. Sizer, we'll start with you. Rural populations are unique in needing business opportunities to assist in employment and growth. What can be crafted and implemented to assist rural development opportunities?
Well, I do have a significant history and experience in rural. In fact, it was Eastern Washington, which is an agricultural community, and I recall the Seattle politics basically attacking my father's farm to be able to be successful. They usually made it even as far as financial success to what they owe. The land was approximately worth $2 million. And so that's a substantial amount of funds that a small farmer has to put out. And so we really need to grow the small businesses, the small organizations, so that we can make it a free market. And I believe that is what's missing in helping our rural areas to grow. We don't want everybody to move to the great state of Maricopa. We do want them to continue to be in Sierra Vista and Safford and these other areas. I believe that we need to be attentive to that, and what we present on the House floor must be for the purpose of growing the business locally so that our economy locally is growing as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Barger, same question.
Repeat the question for me, please.
Certainly. Rural populations are unique in needing business opportunities to assist in employment and growth. What can be drafted and implemented to assist rural development opportunities?
All right, thank you. I think as we look to the rural part of the state, there's unique situations in each of our communities. Our legislative district is really large. You've got some of the mining areas way out on the edge of the state, Clifton, Morenci area. We have in Drew's neck of the woods in Safford, we have the community college, Eastern Arizona, and they have extensions with the universities. And then certainly Sierra Vista is the biggest incorporated area within our district. They neighbor up with Fort Huachuca, and Benson's looking here in this area to expand with the housing development. And so looking at ways to continue in partnership with those industries that are already located there, but make it so that they're not dependent solely on those industries. So we have to look at ways to bring young talent that grows up in those areas back to those areas. Recently I was doing my dental hygiene where I get our cleaning, and I was talking to our dentist, and he lives in the Tucson area, but he grew up in Safford. I know a partner in the same business who grew up in Elfrida but now lives and works in the Tucson area. So a lot of young talent is being created in our rural communities, and for economic reasons they're not returning to that. We have to find ways to get those people to go back, some incentives to start businesses there. We need to certainly, tied to this, I'll bring it back to education. You'll hear me mention it a few times tonight, but we have people that won't move and relocate to Arizona because we have poor education. Where I work in the U of A Tech Park property, there's 400 engineering jobs that people won't fill because they don't want to come to southern Arizona because we have a poor education system. And so if we can bring those people to Arizona, Benson's not that far a drive, especially if that housing development comes. If you build homes between Benson and Tucson, you're going to bring a lot of industry that way. People will go down to Sierra Vista to check things out. I think tourism is a great opportunity for southern Arizona. Certainly Tombstone is the second biggest name in the world when you think of Arizona after the Grand Canyon. So we got to tap into that. That's what I would recommend.
Thank you. Mr. John, your response.
Yes, like I've always said, economy and jobs is the number one issue, and education is number two, and they're tied together at the hip. As a county supervisor, we struggle with it in the Graham County a lot also. We've done some things that have worked over there for us. One is we've worked on trying to improve our infrastructure. One of the big projects that I was able to get completed while I was a supervisor was our new bridge across our river. We was able to do that. That was a $20 million project. And when we have a contractor come in, part of the bidding process is how many local contractors, subcontractors, and laborers they will use. That's a big thing. We broke ground 2 weeks ago on our new county jail. That's another one that's doing there. The other thing we do is we work real closely with BLM and Game and Fish and State Land, good friends with all of those. And what we do is we turn around and try to get land swaps in place like we did for the Safford mine to be able to open the Safford mine. We was able to get that opened when everybody else's economy was dropping down. Because we was able to get that land swap completed, we actually was able to open a mine. One of the probably might even be the last mine in the U.S., but I think it's the first one in 30 years we was able to do. So we was able to take public land and turn it into private land and actually create jobs. It's helped us a lot over there. We've actually been able to survive through the downtimes. But your economy and jobs will not grow unless you have the educated people in the communities to help it grow. We've run into industry many, many times that have wanted to come to our area, and there was two things that held them back: housing and the educated workforce. And we've lost different companies. We had one of the largest mushroom farms wanting to come into our area. They were going to bring in their own educated people, but they were after laborers. Well, they had plenty of laborers, but they didn't have nowhere for them to live. So these are the things that infrastructure's got to be in place to take care of those, and then you have to have the educated workforce.
Thank you. Ms. Nutt, your response.
Well, what works for one community may not work for another. What works here in Benson may not work in Elfrida or Sierra Vista. So you have to go into each community and work and bring the community leaders together in the various entities, education, government, businesses, and create a strategic plan of what works for them, what that community wants, and then grow from there. And then you need to find your entrepreneurs who may not, their product may be something that they ship all over the world. I'll use a couple in Safford specifically, is that they have a label company there, and that label company ships their product all over the world. They have sun pumps, right? Solar sun pumps, and they do the same. Here in Cochise County, they have Fiesta Canning, south of Elfrida, that they employ a lot of people, but they ship their products all over the United States. So to help promote those types of things is what we need in our rural communities also, and we can grow from there, but encourage entrepreneurs. But we do have to have education. We do have to have an educated workforce, but education isn't just always formal education after high school. We have to figure out how to retain our youth when they get out of high school. And I like to use the analogy of Bill Gates. You're never going to get him out of Seattle area because that's his home. So all of his wealth and all of his creativity is there in the Seattle area. We can grow our own Bill Gates in our own district.
Thank you. And Mr. Sizer, your 30-second response.
So I'd like to first respond to Mr. Barger's statement about 400 jobs. I believe it's not necessarily being able to fill it. It's actually the fact that we're having to fill it from outside of the state. That's what some of these businesses are having to do. This indicates our local education concerns. So we definitely need to look at that. Again, plenty of school districts want to scream about having more money, and there's nothing wrong with school districts receiving money with respect to our children's benefiting from it, but when it's not our children and they're not getting education, that becomes a concern.
Thank you. Mr. Barger, next question. What is your plan to help retain teachers and increase education funding in Arizona?
Hadn't thought about this one. So this year, there's going to be approximately 1,200 classrooms that'll start the school year without a teacher in it. Last year was about 1,100 in the state of Arizona. So when you multiply that out, that's about 35,000 students sitting in a classroom without a highly qualified teacher to start instruction. So currently, this is the first year this has happened, but the majority of students graduating from our 3 state universities with education degrees are seeking employment outside the state. Going along with what Mr. Sizer just said about being able to fill internally, our 22 and 23-year-olds are choosing to leave us. And that is a direct result of what the system that they've inherited. And so we need to do a better job. When the state lottery was implemented years ago, a lot of that money was supposed to go to education. That has not been fulfilled as it was intended. That money has been swept into other funds over the years. We now turn issues over to local school districts to pass overrides of up to 15% bond dollars. In Vail, we were able to, and fortunate enough to be able to build some schools with this school facilities board dollars in the early 2000s. That hasn't been funded by the state over the last 6 years. And so as the state has continued to grow and we have over 1 million students in school in Arizona, new schools have not been funded by the state. So I would make the money that is required to go into that fund based on the formula actually be there, because that is what's required. I would consider well, we're going to have to see what happens with the state land trust, but actually now that has been approved by the voters, I would look to sell off more of that land. I think 91% of our state land trust is still there after 105 years, and we're supposed to be done with that process in the first 200 years, the way I understand it. So if we've only sold 9% of it in 105 years, what are we going to do in the remaining 95 years? So that would be a source of revenue that's already earmarked for education. We just have to have the willpower to sell it and have that money go.
Thank you. Mr. John, your response.
Would you repeat the question again, please, for me?
Certainly. What is your plan to help retain teachers and increase education funding in Arizona?
Okay, well, first, you can't print money in the state of Arizona. That only happens in Washington. And so what we've got to do is we've got to improve our revenue streams. And the way to improve our revenue streams is to make our tax situations and our tax plans that we have in place more efficient and increase our base. Right now, HERF dollars is one of them that's struggling real bad. That creates a lot of jobs, HERF dollars does. It's highway user revenue funds. And what's happening there is the tax is too old that it's not creating enough funds to take care of our roads. So what we've got to do is we've got to make that more efficient. And if you go and look at a lot of our different taxes, you'll find out how inefficient a lot of them are. So you have to create a better revenue stream to be able to get the money to the schools. The thing about the schools is right now we have a little bit of time. Prop 123, I don't always agree with Dennis on that one. Prop 123, if nothing else, it got rid of the lawyers and the politics out of the situation, and now it's going to give the right people, the representatives you elect, time to fix the system, whether it's finance reform, whether it's increasing the revenue streams, whatever it might be. But now we can actually get after it and try to get some things done. We have to increase teachers' pay. If you don't, you get what you pay for sometimes, but we got some great teachers out there that are working for half price, and we need to get them back where it is. We need to make the greener grass our public schools. State of Arizona and other schools, and I agree with parents' choice on education, but we've turned around and we have marketed charter schools and private schools so heavily that everybody thinks public schools are bad. They're not. You create a better, well-rounded society with public schools. That's where the greener grass needs to be. We got to get the teachers' pay where it needs to be so that we can keep the teachers, get the best teachers, and keep the best teachers, and pay them for the profession that they deserve.
Thank you. Ms. Nutt, your response.
My response or my original answer?
Your answer to the question.
Okay. So in retaining teachers and in increasing education funding, we have to expand our tax base. And this is key to growing the funding. We want a lot of the fruit of the tree, if you will. We want libraries, we want better education, we want infrastructure, we want all of these things. But we cannot get them unless we either raise taxes or expand our tax base. So let's expand our tax base. That pleases everyone. I don't think anyone really wants to have their taxes raised. So let's expand the tax base and pull from that to fund these things. We have a lot of federal land and BLM land that is controlled that we do not get paid for. We have payment in lieu of taxes that sometimes it comes in, sometimes it doesn't, sometimes it's not as much as was planned. let's bring that federal controlled land into state controlled land. It will increase the state trust fund, and we can also sell some of that land, which will go into the state trust fund that will help fund education. School districts vary. We cannot put a blanket over what's going on in different school districts. We have some great school districts that are doing fine, teachers are happy, and then we have some school districts that are struggling. So we need to look at our school districts and individually as well and see what they need in those various school districts.
Thank you. Mr. Sizer, your answer.
Well, I believe there are multiple things. Obviously, our local economy and how it welcomes businesses as being part of Governor Ducey's Zan Harrow's group. That's some of the biggest discussions about how to create a welcoming environment in our state. And how do we do that? Well, if you look at Pima County, the roads are really poor. A defense contractor there was sued repeatedly by Pima County due to encroachment, and that encroachment was not something that the county properly managed to prevent from happening. And so when residential communities got near it, they could no longer process certain defense articles, and that entire business went to another state as a result. So we need to have really what that's describing, not only in our education about funds making it to our classroom, but also how local governments are conducting themselves, how they're maintaining the transportation system and all that. It's about accountability. It's about oversight on holding these local authorities, like Becky had said. This is a local issue. There are areas that are highly successful and it's a welcoming environment, and there are areas doing a very poor job, and that impacts overall our state's economy and our education and our children's future.
Thank you. Mr. Barger, your 30-second response.
Well, I think we all agree that increasing some revenue streams would be helpful, but I'm going to go back to the point that we have open jobs and we can't attract people to come to our state. Increasing revenue streams means something's got to be new. If we can't bring new people to our state to move here and raise their kids here, we're in trouble. Education, K-12 education is 42% of our state budget. You add in higher ed, it's over 50%. It has been underfunded for a long time, and we're paying the price, as we're talking about in other areas related to revenue streaming.
Thank you. Mr. John, this question will be for you. The 2 open seats for this office were previously held by Republicans who have reached their term limits. What is your assessment of how they represented this district?
How they represented is past tense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, you know, we've had pretty good luck with them, and I'll tell you why. We didn't sit in our offices or sit in our homes in our lazy boy and say, those guys need to help me. We didn't do that. We got up, we went to Phoenix, we sat in their office, and we told them, don't let this happen. Graham County needs this. City of Safford needs this. Thatcher, who are the people that I represent, we need that. And then we tell them, well, we don't just give them the problem, we actually work with them on a solution. And then we go back, and if they don't do something, we're back there again with them. So we forced them to help us by going there and talking to them about it. And so we had pretty good luck with 2 out of the 3, actually. And I won't go into names. But we had pretty good luck with 2 out of the 3, but we made them aware of it. We made it aware of that. And that's a plan that I want to put into place when I get in the legislature, is I want to work closely with the local leaders. I'm a big believer in local control. That's where decisions should be made. That's where things should be done. School boards, city councils, supervisors, whatever. I want to work with them closely. And then I want to go to the communities and have forums in place where the community can come and tell me what their situations are, so that I can learn from those and improve from there on that. That'd be it.
Thank you. Ms. Nutt, your response.
Well, I'm focused on our local economies, and I've continually seen our rural district kind of slip and slide with our one dominant industry. So that's really my focus, is keeping our local economies, our rural economies thriving, and we're lacking there. So That's my answer.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Sizer, your response.
Well, first of all, again, going back to Governor Ducey's Zan Harrow's, participating in those meetings basically gave me an opportunity, not only from working for a DoD contractor, but also having a small business myself and experiencing the difficulty that local small businesses have to be able to be successful in growing their business. The concern is that when other small businesses are not growing to make the economy more of a competitive environment, what you have is a growth of one business. And that's not good. It's not free enterprise. It's not opportunity to create a Bill Gates type environment, as Ms. Nutt said. And that is very important. Me being an engineer, a technology savvy individual, I would definitely love to see Silicon Valley grow up here and produce all kinds of opportunities for not only bringing businesses here, but also enabling additional funds for our schools to receive so our children will have quality education. And that in turn would actually balance some of these major concerns that are happening. Again, I don't exclude the oversight issues on both the school accountability as well as local governments. Those are very important because we don't want to have waste. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Barger.
Arizona is actually first in education cuts in the country. 22% have been cut over the last 10 years. And so our outgoing state legislators served for 8 consecutive of those 10 years. So they have led the way nationally in cutting education. Also, the number of people enrolled in the Republican Party has also declined over the last few years in the southern or southeastern portion of our state, not increased. Sierra Vista, which they both live near or in, is actually losing population. People are leaving the small community. So I don't think they've served their community as well as they intended. I don't believe either one's a bad guy, but I think some of the decisions they made in the legislature has certainly hurt southeastern Arizona. 2 years ago, when the budget was passed for the state, so talking March of 2015, that budget was passed at 3 o'clock in the morning on a Saturday. Legislature is supposed to end their session Thursday afternoon. So we've raised our children, my wife and I, that good things generally don't happen after 11 o'clock at night. Making a $9 billion budget decision at 3 o'clock in the morning, a day and a half after everyone was supposed to go home, is a real bad example of leadership. And one of our representatives was the Speaker of the House and allowed that to happen. And that's actually one of the reasons why I've decided to run for the legislature, because we need leadership. We need people to make good decisions and stand up and say, you know what, let's sleep on this. Let's decide if this is really what's best. We've been asked to represent 6 million people. How do we make a good decision if we haven't slept, if we haven't eaten, if we haven't had a chance to process this? And so I don't think that they've done a good job of representing southeastern Arizona, but that's my opinion.
Thank you. Mr. John, your 30-second response.
Well, I've been at the legislature. I've been over there working with them with county issues, and it's not an 8 to 4 job. I'll tell you that. And when Friday comes around and you have some serious decisions that need to be made, you're going to stay Friday and make it. If you got some other serious decisions, you're going to stay Saturday and make it. So you're not going to have. It's not going to be normal sleeping hours for one. The other is that. That David actually did better before he was Speaker of the House, to tell you the truth.
Thank you. One moment over here. So we'll do our last question of the 2-minute variety, and then we will shift. In the last session, legislation was introduced to eliminate the need for the 100-year assured water supply for new developments in Cochise County. How do you think that will have affected the effects on the Cochise County and its cities? So we will start with Ms. Nutt. Can you repeat that, please? Certainly. So this is about the legislation that was introduced to eliminate the need for a 100-year assured water supply for the new developments in Cochise County. How do you think this ruling or this legislation will affect Cochise County and its cities?
My understanding that wasn't doing away with the 100-year water supply so much as it was giving control to the local governments to determine their water supply that was adequate for what they were trying to do, which I did not have a problem with that, talking about local control. And Cochise County specifically, there have been 3 studies done, and the only area in Cochise County that has a water issue is Wilcox because it is a closed basin. And my understanding of this legislation was to promote growth. And I have 2 minutes, right? Okay, so this was to promote growth, and we need growth in our area. We're losing the rural way of life because we're losing our youth. They don't have jobs. They don't have homes. That's already been talked about up here. And we're trying to do things that will shut that down. And when we have a supply that's already been established, we need to trust that the local governments know what they're doing. We have, and I support agriculture, and I hate to throw agriculture under the bus, but we have pecan groves that are going into Cochise County enormously. That's going to take a whole lot more water than a housing development that people have been up in arms about this 100-year supply legislation. So we need to be looking at things like that and not be squashing growth in our residency, which is what that 100-year supply was about.
Thank you.
Hope that made sense.
Thank you. Mr. Sizer, your response.
Well, I definitely have personal experience as far as water issues. As you know, as I introduced myself at the beginning about farming, my father was a fruit farmer. I worked on the farm with my dad. And one of the biggest things is that whenever the river went low, coming from the Cascades, there was always local authority known as the Irrigation District Board that would determine on water allocation to each farmer. And I strongly believe in local authority to have such ability. Obviously, it's up to the local decision to be able to form a district board for irrigation water. And I strongly support what the local people would want. Obviously, from my experience, had Seattle taken over the water decisions, most of the farmers would have actually had to cut their farm size down substantially in order to be able to make profit from their fruit. So local authority and a possible irrigation district authority formed by local members would be appropriate to address that.
Thank you. Mr. Barger.
Actually, I think this is the toughest question we've been asked so far. I've been trying to learn a lot more about the water issues in Cochise County in particular as I've been running for office and talking to members of the City Council in Wilcox, talking to Mayor Mueller down in Sierra Vista, trying to figure out what the impact of the housing development here would be on Karchner Caverns as a wet cave. The water, of course, flows north. What's the impact on the industry and the pecan groves and pistachio groves out in the far eastern part of the county? And what does that mean for Wilcox? Fort Huachuca has first rights, water rights there, and then the second is the San Pedro River Valley Cooperative or whatever that area that follows the river path because of some of the environmental issues, and then the Bureau of Land Management gets to argue certain things. And so when we talk about local control, I really think local control is good, but which local control? The local control that's upriver? So does that mean Bisbee gets more say than Sierra Vista and they get more say than Benson? Because that's all local control, and I'd hate to see those local entities pitted against each other. So in certain instances, I think having an organization like the state saying, here are some guidelines for the 100 years, and this is what we expect so that we have water down at the end of the river. I think that's really important. So I don't think we want to just say local control is good, because does that mean Sierra Vista, with the largest population, has more local control than Benson? And I think that's a really messy issue. So I haven't gotten my head fully wrapped around it, but I've been trying to learn it and make sense out of all of this. And I think it is really important, especially as we look to grow. And we talked about increasing tax bases. That means bringing people. How do we balance those two issues? I think it's very difficult.
Thank you. Mr. John, your response.
Repeat that question again, would you?
Certainly. So the last session legislation was introduced to eliminate the need for a 100-year assured water supply for new developments in Cochise County. What effect do you think this will have on Cochise County and its cities?
First of all, we can't talk out both sides of our face by saying that Maricopa County or the state legislator is doing cookie cutter regulations that is hurting rural Arizona. When and they don't have to do it, but we have to do it. We're penalized. Whenever you go to doing cookie cutter regulations like that, and actually cutting out a certain area in the state and creating certain rules for that certain area of the state, you're going to cause a lot of problems. Arizona has a problem with water everywhere. We all have to be taught to be educated to take care of our water. We all have to be taught to take care of our resources. When you talk about local control, it's not so much that they're going to be the ones making the laws, but they need to be at the table. They need to be involved in the solutions, whether it's school boards, whether it's city council, whether it's county supervisors, citizens. If your leaders don't protect the citizens of the community, then you guys get a new leader. You get somebody in there that does what you tell them to do. And so local control is not just somebody that sits and complains about things. They need to be involved in the solutions. Anytime there's a problem with something, it starts on the ground somewhere. Somebody has a problem with it. Those people need to be at the table. Those people need to be involved in the solution. And that's not happening right now in our legislature. It's happening from 2 or 3 or a governor's office or whatever, working its way down. It needs to be worked from the people up and from the leaders they have elected.
Thank you. Ms. Nutt, your 30-second response.
It's interesting how we bend local control to how we want it to apply to different situations. So, yes, we do need to be careful with that, because we don't want patchwork here, there, as Drew referred to. But we also do not want to squash development simply because of somewhere else in the state where something's okay there, and so they're want to control something in another part of the state.
Thank you. At this time, we will transition to the part of the debate where each candidate will receive a separate question with 1 minute to respond. Remember, you still may submit questions via note cards for specific candidates, and please remember to refrain from personal attacks. The first question will be for Mr. Sizer, and it is this. Your 2 biggest points of pride are your unwavering conservative principles and your deep experience in logical problem solving. As logic generally requires some level of compromise, how do you plan to reconcile problem solving, beliefs, and compromise?
Well, first of all, my Christian values, I've always been upfront about it. Obviously, in the gray areas, that's obviously going to be a forefront decision. And I will not basically compromise to the point where I misrepresent the people who voted me in. On the campaign road, I basically said what I represent, who I am. And so if I am to use that compromise zone to do contrary to what my views and ethics and values are, then I would not be representing the folks who elected me to the office.
Thank you. Next question is for Ms. Nutt. How will you specifically expand economic development in rural Arizona?
That goes back to each community, doing a SWOT analysis for each community, coming up with a strategic plan, bringing leaders together so that they can figure out what they want in their community, what tools do they have, what attributes do they have that they can grow from there. And from there, as they begin that strategic plan and examining their community, they can come up with what they want to do. And then we would take that ideas to the economic development organizations in the state and begin to attract business that applies to that. We'd also look at what is currently in the district, how we can expand businesses there, encourage entrepreneurs, work with the small business development centers, and anything else that we can get training for our entrepreneurs that have that to bring business. And also education. We've got to get our kids educated and encourage them to stay in the community where they grew up with, if they want to, but at least they would have the choice.
Thank you. Mr. John, your question. How does your government and/or business ownership experience prepare you for the legislature?
Well, you know, it's hard to say which one was more important, but I actually lean on my business experience more than I do my government experience. My business experience has taught me the common sense and the reality of every one of us out there trying to make a living and struggling through the regulations that government has made to almost hinder your success. And so that's one thing that has made me aware of what's going on out there, like everybody else trying to make a living. As far as government, it helped me understand the process, the proper processes to go through to accomplish and reach a solution. And it wasn't something that you analyze over and over and over again. It's something you analyze and you go and you try to get something done. Government has a tendency to overanalyze things so many times that by the time they come up with the proper report and the actual analytical solution, it's outdated by 10 years. In government, county government anyway, what we did is we looked at the problem, we figured out a way to do it, and then we would fix it.
Thank you. Mr. Barger, your question. Which issues would you consider yourself to be moderate on?
I think there's actually quite a few issues in this particular race that I would consider myself moderate on. I would obviously recognize that education is funded by tax dollars, and I'm a big advocate of education, so that would put me at odds with some people at the far right of my party. I think my general approach is more moderate to most issues. As a school principal, what I do every day is deal with people with conflicting interests. People are very passionate about their children. Parents want their kid to make sure that they have the best opportunity, and sometimes they come in and they're at odds with other folks, and we have to sit down and listen and resolve issues. And if you start with an approach of, I always know what's best, that's not a healthy way to solve problems. So I think I'm very much in the middle of listening, trying to resolve issues, making informed decisions, and trying to help as many people as we can. It's kind of what you do as a principal. So I think you have to be moderate to be successful in what I do, and I hope to take that to the legislature.
Thank you. Mr. Sizer, to date, you have chosen to decline some invitations with certain organizations. How will you be able to represent those that you choose to not speak with or not meet with to date?
Well, I could probably guess where that came from. That's the Vail Parent Network, and they're in the audience. I did receive an invitation from them, and that invitation originated from the Vail School District email address, and the individual that was involved in that invitation was actually an employee of the Vail School District. I felt that to be a conflict. So I identified in the communication that they need to be a separate organization, as that I perceived that as a misuse of school funds and school assets and employees, where it's supposed to be a nonpartisan organization. And so that is the specific group that wrote that statement. I have actually attended various groups, including here in Benson, many in Sierra Vista, And I've also attended a group in Corona that's actually has the opposite views on abortion. So,
Thank you.
oh, sorry.
Ms. Nutt, from your promotional material, it appears that your public service history has been brief or fleeting. How can we, the voters, be sure you would be different if elected?
Brief or fleeting. My community service has been lifelong I began at the age of 16 when I was volunteered as a candy striker, but they don't call them that anymore, in a hospital. I formed a 4-H group in my early 20s because we didn't have one in the community I lived in. I have been extensively involved in 4-H. When I incorporated a Chamber of Commerce, it was totally on a personal level. It was out of my own doing for my community. All that I did in that was community focused. So I have an extensive background in community service. I incorporated a Toastmasters, or not incorporated, but I started Toastmasters, Christian Women's Club, and American Business Women's Association. So a lot of service organizations that I've helped start.
Thank you. Mr. John, your next question. You have been an LD14 representative your life and lived and worked in rural areas. So the question is, how have you been prepared, or how have you prepared yourself to work with the very metropolitan representatives who are the majority in the House?
Okay. Well, as a county supervisor from rural Arizona, it's always been my goal to protect rural Arizona, and specifically in Graham County, because that's the people that I represented. Agribusiness is a big issue, and so I was over there all the time, meeting with the legislature, meeting with the governor's office. I've actually been appointed to 4 different committees by four different governors have appointed me to committees, and I'm still serving on 2 right now, the ACJC, Arizona Criminal Justice Commission, and also the BLM Resource Advisory Commission. I serve on ECO, and those are all positions that work with legislators and actually come to these committee groups that I belong to and ask for advice on different issues. When you're going in to ask people to make sure that they don't cut your budget any more than you've already cut, you learn to become friends with ones that you don't like and ones that you do like, because you know what you got to do for your community to help them out. And so I've worked with all of them, both sides of the table, both sides of agreeing to me or not agreeing to me. So I have developed some good relationships over there, including the next 2 speakers of the House, whichever one it ends up being.
Thank you. Mr. Barger. According to the Safford debate, you think the judicial branch should have more power than the legislative. Why?
I believe I kind of addressed that earlier this evening. I don't think they should have more power. I think they should have the power to hold the legislative branch to what they are required to do and what has been mandated by the people. I think most people in Arizona, when you explain to them how Prop 123 had to be resolved because the legislature didn't fund what they were required to fund and they took the money that was required by a vote of the people, most people get upset with the parties. In Arizona, we've seen a decrease in the last 4 years of party membership. Independent membership in the state of Arizona has gone up 4% in the last 4 years because people are getting tired of the system. And that's because people are being pulled either to the far left or to the far right. So going back to that moderate question last round, I think people are looking for someone in the middle who's going to be a common sense person. And if we can't get the legislature to do what they're required to by law, somebody has to have the authority to help them rather than wait 2 years to the next legislative election. So I think empowering our judiciary would be helpful in Arizona.
Thank you. Mr. Sizer, your next question. What is your perspective on Arizona's law to allow the use of marijuana for medical purposes?
I'm against marijuana, period.
Okay. Ms. Nutt, what is your position towards the Second Amendment of the United States Constitution?
I support gun rights. I usually carry one, sleep with 2. Lived out off the grid for years, so I carried one a lot, but I totally support the Second Amendment.
Thank you. Mr. John, as heroin and prescription drug overdoses continue to escalate in Arizona, what steps would you take legislatively to combat the ongoing opioid epidemic?
Wow. I think they've been trying to do that for a while. I'm not sure I'm the golden child to fix that, but what needs to be done is you need to get the right people involved with coming up with a solution. And making marijuana a legal recreational drug isn't one of the answers to it. It needs to be, it just needs to be, well, you got a problem with drugs in the state of Arizona. And it's not just the state of Arizona, but it's everywhere. So we have to spend more money, because I serve on the ACGAC. We talk about this solution a lot. We have to figure out a way to create more rehab centers. In fact, DOC is actually been allotted some money this year to do halfway houses. It's going to help recidivism with inmates, because what happens is they get back out there and they struggle with life and they go to drugs again. And so what has to be done, we have to spend money to help rehab those people and make it affordable for people that need it. And so families aren't destroyed because they can't afford it, or Salvation Army when it's full.
Thank you. Mr. Barger, what is your position on Common Core and why?
I believe that the concept of a national measure is actually a good one. I think the implementation of Common Core and how Arizona was held hostage by the Obama administration during the 08-09 cycle, and billions of dollars of bailout money was tied to it and held over our head, was really poorly handled. Anyone who's read the standards sees that kindergartners should know that the letter B for Barger is a really good thing. I think that third graders knowing their times table is good. Fifth graders being able to write a persuasive paragraph based on what they've read in facts. No one's going to question those. I think it's been politicized, and our nation's been so polarizing on this issue. It's kind of sad, but it's really no different than having an ACT or an SAT as a national measure to decide who gets into college. Why should we wait till 11th grade to do that and figure out that our kids aren't prepared?
Thank you. Mr. Sizer, your next question. You're running for 2 offices currently, School Governing Board and State House. Which is your backup plan and which is your priority, and why?
I don't know about backup plan. The main purpose of running for both, obviously in 2014 I had significant experience in going door to door, being a parent and seeing the issues going on. I sought to get in the governing board position to be a proactive parent, and obviously being an engineer and not a politician or even having any establishment association, that I would be a good candidate. I did lose by 1%. I do still have passion for our children, and in order for me to fight for school funds as well as understand how to get it to the classroom, that's why I'm running for both. And one is nonpartisan and one is a partisan, and both of them are not a conflict if I was to hold both offices.
Thank you. Ms. Nutt, your next question. What are your thoughts on the U.S. further restricting immigration?
Well, I think are we talking border or immigration? So because we have 2 different issues. So I think that we need to secure our border, and then we can work on our immigration law. But we cannot have an immigration reform going on if we don't secure our border.
Thank you. Mr. John. Someone in the audience is curious why you would retire from Grand County Supervisor after 16 years for less than half the pay.
Well, I tried to talk some other people into it. Rural Arizona, our side of the district hasn't had representation in quite a while. We have a little bit difference. We're a little bit more tied to Benson, Wilcox area, so it's more agribusiness type things. And our representatives have been from the Sierra Vista area that's mostly military, not much mining goes on, not much agribusiness goes on. That side needs representation. We've been trying to get somebody to run from over there for a while and get elected. And when it came time that There was 2 seats available. I've been in business long enough. I've had my successes. I had those that weren't successful, and I've had a few because of my diversity in business that was successful enough that I can afford to do it and retire as a supervisor and be able to pull it off. But the opportunity's there. My dad would be very upset if I did not step up when the opportunity was to help serve people.
Thank you. Mr. Barger, your next question. Some on stage have suggested that you are not a true Republican. How do you respond?
Wow. I guess I would say I'm not sure what the definition of true Republican is. I registered as a Republican in 1988 when I turned 18, and I've voted in every election since then. I have not always voted Republican because sometimes I believe some of those candidates are less qualified than other party candidates, whether it be a Democrat or an independent or even a libertarian. I'd like to think of myself as an informed individual who's, we'll use the word moderate again, fairly moderate, but I lean to the right. I am not as far right as some of the other candidates on this stage, and I'm comfortable with that. I think that most people in our country are more towards the middle, and I think that's why I represent people well. I think that's why I'm successful in the job I have, working with people on a day in, day out basis. So I'm okay with whatever they want to call me. I know who I am. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sizer, your next question. What is your opinion of the amount of money the state of Arizona spends in addressing the needs of the state and its citizens?
That's kind of a pretty broad question. I do have concerns that the government itself is in excess and sometimes at abuse. This is why I actually support Article 5 approach, which allows legislatures, that's granted through our Constitution, which, by the way, allows the failure of the oversight issues to be addressed through a legislative manner. And like Mr. Barger said that he wants to increase the judicial branch, well, constitutionally, it's a separation of power concern, and if there's abuse, we need to address that so that we can properly transfer those funds that are being wasted to the appropriate areas, like our schools.
Thank you. Ms. Nutt, your next question. What will you do to assure that Arizona does not abandon the clean elections opportunity for candidates?
Well, I like the clean elections. I think it's great because then we don't have special interest money. So I wouldn't want to abandon and hope that we don't do that. So whatever we can do to keep clean elections going is I will work for.
Mr. John, your next question. How do you feel regarding SunZia getting the okay to build a giant power line through the pristine lower San Pedro River Valley?
You're talking SunZia that's coming out of the upper part of New Mexico coming down. Well, when you want green energy, it's just not something you just plop somewhere and say we're going to put a windmill here and we're going to have the turbines that's going to create electricity because this is the only place or the area that the wind blows, or this is the only area where the sun is. You still have to deliver it somewhere. So I've been involved with SunZia from day one when they started. They've kept us informed as a county supervisor through the whole process. So how I feel about it, if you want to have green energy, you need to have power lines to do it. I sat through the hearings, all the hearings with it. You have to have power lines. If you want green energy and you want it delivered, figure out how you're going to deliver it. It doesn't deliver in a bucket. It delivers by power lines. That's it.
Thank you. Mr. Barger, what is your plan to deal with people or groups within your district that you may not agree with, and are you willing to meet with them?
I can't believe there would be a group I wouldn't agree with. You know what? That's what I do as a principal every day. I was an assistant principal for 5 years. I've been a principal for 10 years. There's nothing harder than being an assistant principal and having to deal with parents whose child has done something really bad and calls for a really severe consequence, and sitting down. Obviously, you have different interests in that conversation, but you have to be respectful. You got to be able to look people in the eye. You got to be able to listen. You have to empathize. I'm not afraid of meeting with any group. I don't believe that most people are bad people. I think most people start from a position of emotion in response to a situation, and oftentimes once they're heard and they believe that you're listening to them, that you have a chance to make inroads and make progress. Respect goes a long way. If you give it, you get it. And I think that when I sit and meet with people, even if we don't agree, we can agree to disagree respectfully, and that's what I look for as an outcome in any meeting that doesn't have a clear solution.
Thank you. Mr. Sizer, your next question. What is your position regarding community colleges, and please elaborate?
My position, I have no problems with community colleges. Actually, one thing that I really support are JTED-related programs, STEM, obviously, because I'm an engineer. And being a parent, I understand from a parent's perspective how technology encourages children to be able to get that desire to possibly even learn the theory and the understanding of it, and possibly from that approach, and they would have the desires to learn to the point where they could qualify for college and have that opportunity, as well as their opportunity to get a professional certificate if they do not choose to go to college. And so I strongly support colleges, especially in the STEM and engineering-related area.
Thank you. Ms. Nutt, your next question. What is your position on voters having to provide identification in order to vote in Arizona elections?
I think that voters should be showing who they are when they go to vote. I believe that that's something that we need to do.
Thank you. Mr. John, your next question. What is your position regarding the state government funding programs that serve families living in poverty?
Wow, there's a lot of those programs. The job of government is to take care of those that can't take care of themselves, and whatever we need to do to take care of those that can't take care of themselves, we need to do it. But that's easier said than done. There's a lot of programs out there that I think there is wasteful spending going on, but it's just something that we just have to get the right people in there, and we just have to have the right monitoring and the right reporting to find out what the problem is with it. But that's what government's for, is to take care of those that can't take care of themselves. Now, those that can take care of themselves, it's the job of the government to help those get jobs so that they don't become a problem and taking money from those that really need it. And so the lazy folks just won't get out there and work. They need to get out and work.
Thank you. Mr. Barger, your question. What are your thoughts about renewable energy generation in Arizona?
Well, I think that solar is obviously the easy one for Arizona with all the wonderful blue skies that we have here. At my school, we are actually built a LEED Gold facility, and we have some solar panels. We have some windmills. We have water retention or harvesting tanks, and we're located right across the street from the University of Arizona's solar zone. And I think that taking advantage of those projects when you can put covered parking up and put the solar panels over that, things along that line where solar can go on top of existing infrastructure, so we're not blading desert, to just simply put up solar panels makes sense. We have a great opportunity to harvest the sun in Arizona. I think we should do more of it. In terms of wind's actually not as effective as people think. They look great, they're really exciting, but they don't produce as much energy as you would hope. So I think solar is really what we need to push for in southern Arizona.
Thank you. Mr. Sizer, your next question. What is your position towards children being required to be vaccinated for preventable diseases?
First of all, obviously we need to maintain a healthy school environment. We don't, obviously, if there's any medical concerns involving spread of any diseases or those kind of things, from that perspective, I believe children attending public schools should have vaccinations. However, in public articles and stuff, there are some concerns about some vaccinations. So obviously, as a state legislature, if I was to present anything on the House floor, I would need to dig into this, more details into each of the vaccinations, whether there's any legitimate concerns or not. So that's what my stance is. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Nutt, your next question. What are your opinions towards organizations and state agencies whose mission is to bring businesses to Arizona through economic and tax incentives for purpose of economic development?
I think they're good. They serve a purpose. We have a state organization, the Arizona Commerce Authority, probably the most dominant one in the state, and it does a lot of good. I'm glad that we have a governor who's business focused, but I really want them to be focused more in Southeast Arizona. So I would encourage them to start looking, but that goes back to how we can utilize them, goes back to what works in the different communities, what's the strategic plan, and then take that plan and then go to these state organizations and get them on board with that to help us attract those businesses.
Thank you. Mr. John, your next question. In the event of a budget shortfall, what is your philosophy and approach?
You cut spending. I mean, it's pretty simple. I think that I've been involved with the state's budget for quite a few years with the counties, and you can't say you balanced a budget when all you do is shift the cost to somebody else, and that's what's been happening the last, well, this year wasn't so bad, but year before last and the year before that, probably about 4 or 5 years. The cost shifts that went back to cities and counties. That's not the way you balance a budget. The cities aren't able to do it. The counties aren't able to do it. We're only able to budget what we have, and that's what we spend. So you're just going to have to cut. A lot of tough decisions in that. There was some made 5, 6 years ago, and that we've never gotten back. I'm sure the city's never gotten back a lot of theirs, but the counties haven't got their money back yet either. It's cost us over $10 million since they started doing the sweeps and the cuts for our county. So if you don't have it, you don't spend it. If you don't have the money, figure out a way to get the money without charging taxes to the people.
Thank you. Mr. Barger, your next question. What do you believe is the appropriate role state government should play in encouraging job creation?
Well, I think the state should take an active role in recruiting new industries to the state. Certainly they should partner with local entities, whether it be a city or a county or a commerce authority or something along those lines, to see how they can work together. The state has far more authority over setting certain requirements, related to taxes, and passing on regulations or excusing regulations so that companies can relocate here. So I think that when you have stronger communities that are able to say this is what we'd like to see, to build partnerships with the state is a smart plan. I think anytime the state can increase the revenue stream, we've used that phrase a lot tonight, and bring new people to the state of Arizona, bring new industry to the state of Arizona, what that does is it creates more money in the system, which allows either a reduction in taxes or an extension of benefits, or even, as currently, a replacement of benefits that have been taken away from counties and cities, so that we can return local communities to the level that they were before the recession.
Thank you. Mr. Sizer, your next question. What is your position regarding the federal government assigning control of Arizona's federal public lands to the state?
Actually, on the public lands, I believe, based on the financial facts on how the federal government, BLM, handles their public lands and the revenues associated to it versus how the state responds, I believe the facts show the state actually does a better job and the federal government actually has a negative in their revenue. And that's a huge concern. And also there's a concern of encroachment. and there is an understanding that constitutionally that state legislatures may vote on it and to file a motion basically to take control of the lands within our borders and not have the federal government control them. So I support any state action to go to the U.S. Congress to address that the public lands basically need to be transferred to the states.
Thank you. Ms. Nutt, your next question. There's a proposed ballot initiative currently in the signature gathering stage that seeks to repeal Arizona's death penalty and replace it with life in prison. What is your stance on the death penalty?
That's something that I have not really considered a lot, but right now I am okay with the death penalty.
Thank you. One moment, please. So, Mr. John, your next question, as a follow-up to one of your comments, you used the phrase lazy people should get a job, and the audience is curious about what is your standard or criteria for that?
Okay. Well, politically correctness isn't one of my fortes. There's people out there that can work that don't work. Our government system's in a situation now where we're giving a lot of money away to people that can't actually work, but they're getting paid more to stay home. The system's broke there. We need to. Those people will feel so much better about themselves if they can go out and spend the day doing something and getting paid for it and taking care of their family. There are those that can't. I understand that. There are those that are hurt, that are injured, that have problems, whether it's mental, whether it's physical, whatever. But we have too many people that are sitting on the couch that actually should be out being contributing citizens. Instead of taking tax dollars, paying to those that don't want to work because they can make just as much or more money sitting at home. So we need to try to work with those people to get them educated enough to be able to get a job and go out and do some work. I mean no disrespect when I said lazy. Every Sunday and sometimes Saturday, I get very lazy. I shouldn't get paid for sitting around on my couch either.
Thank you. And Mr. Barger, your last question. What is your position on actions like those taken during the last legislative session to defund organizations like Planned Parenthood?
Well, I think Planned Parenthood actually provides a variety of services. Some of those are really good. I don't know that I would consider abortion under family planning. That's under family deplanning. That's when you've already made a bad decision, and I don't think tax dollars should be used to fund abortion by any standard. I think, obviously Planned Parenthood was in the news. There's a lot of stuff that went on there that is not good, but that doesn't mean the whole company is bad, and doesn't mean that all the services they provide are bad. I think we do need to look at how the money that they receive in state aid is used. If they're supplanting different services so they can move money over to the side that provides abortion, that's not okay. But I think as a whole, to blame an entire organization for a couple of videotaped conversations in one office of a national organization is very myopic, and I don't support that approach at all.
Thank you. We will now move to our closing comments. The first closing statement will be given by Mr. Sizer.
Well, I'd like to thank you all for being here and putting up with my smart aleck comments, if you detected any. But I'm a candidate that's willing to represent you. I'm we the people. I believe in our Constitution. One of the things that I would like to refer it to is a reference to the book of Daniel. I consider that you residents and citizens of LD14 are like the king in the book of Daniel, in which the king wasn't necessarily religious, but however Daniel was. I, being like Daniel, will work for you, will represent the majority views at the house, on the House floor, and go to bat for you basically to make sure that our values are going in there and the needs of our rural Arizona is addressed. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Nutt, your closing comments.
I'm running for the Arizona House of Representatives because it's important, and we must have representatives who have a heart and passion for rural Arizona and a commitment to see it stabilized and growing. Growing our economy is the key to being able to create jobs, keep our youth local, and expand our tax base rather than just raising taxes. By doing so, we are able to pay for things like schools, infrastructure, transportation, libraries, and all the other things that make our communities sustainable. I'm at a place in my life where I can give my full time, full attention, total commitment to this position. There are 2 open seats. You'll be voting for 2 people. I ask for your vote that you will vote Becky Nutt to the Arizona House of Representatives. Thank you for coming tonight, and thank you for your support.
Thank you. Mr. John, your closing comment.
Yes, I appreciate everybody being here tonight, and thanks for the opportunity to be here also. You know, I've lived in this district for all of my life, 58 years. I hate to tell you my age, but 58 years. I've done businesses in 2 of the 3 counties. When I left Cochise County, when they sold the ranch and we had to move to Sanford, I didn't have the opportunity to go to school because my father was building a meatpacking plant that I had to go to work to pay the bills and take care of the family. When I got through with that, I was able to go to school. I've been in business all my life, from meat cutters to a motorcycle dealership that I've owned, owning a service station. I've been a mechanic, and actually, because I believe in diversity, I actually own a beauty school and a couple of beauty salons. Can't tell here, but my wife's the brains. Did well in those. Sold the last one in last July. That's one of the reasons why I can afford to be able to run between that and my pension from the County Board of Supervisors.
Thank you. And Mr. Barger, your closing statement.
Well, one of the things we look for when we hire teachers or anyone to work in a school, we often use the phrase that past behavior is the best predictor of future behavior. I have a record of service in my community. I have a record of leadership in my community. I have a record of stability across many industries or areas of my life. I'm a member of the Metropolitan Education Commission in Tucson. My wife and I have attended the same church for 18 years. We've been married for 23 years in a row. Thank you for coming tonight, Cindy. And so, I think I bring a record of stability and leadership. You know what you're going to get with me. I've proven that I'm someone who's willing to listen. I said at the start of this event tonight that this is really a job interview. You guys are the ones who are hiring. Hopefully, I've done enough to convince you that I should be given one of the 2 positions that we're seeking tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. To our candidates, we thank you so much for participating in our forum. And to our audience members, we thank all of you who took the time to come and inform yourselves before voting. We encourage you to visit www.azcleanelections.gov, where you can find information on the upcoming elections, download the Clean Elections app, and learn about the candidates running for office. A link to the video of this debate, as well as other Clean Elections debates, will be posted on that site within 72 hours of a scheduled debate. Please fill out the evaluation form you received as you entered and return it to one of our volunteers. Your feedback is important to the Commission and will help us improve future debates. Thank you all for coming tonight. You are welcome to stay and speak directly with the candidates. Good evening.